right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we are unearthing an absolute buried cinematic treasure. I want you to forget the massive, polished World War II epics for a second, the ones with their sweeping orchestral scores and clear-cut, flawless heroes. Instead, we're going to look at a film that completely shattered that mold, literally rewriting the rules from the ground up on how combat and conflict could be portrayed on screen. Now, while most of us are super familiar with those grand, sweeping war films of that era, ask yourself, what movie actually brought the Korean War to the big screen while the conflict itself was still raging? It's a genuinely fascinating question, right? Because typically, Hollywood waits for the dust to settle. Studios usually need time, well, actually, they need a lot of time, to process history and construct a nice, commercially viable product. Deciding to make a movie about a war while the outcome is totally unknown, and while soldiers are actively fighting on the front lines, that is an incredibly bold, almost unheard of move. Well, the answer is the steel helmet. The Korean War broke out in June 1950, and get this groundbreaking film was incredibly already in theaters by early 1951. Hollywood usually waits, sure, but this wasn't some retrospective piece looking back with rose-tinted nostalgia, no way. This was a raw, immediate, real-time reaction to the headlines of the day. It brought the visceral, gritty reality of a faraway conflict directly to the American public, completely bypassing the usual studio incubation period. Part 1. Samuel Fuller, Soldier Turned Filmmaker. Look at the stark contrast we've got here. On one side, you had your standard 1950s Hollywood directors, guys mostly accustomed to cushy sound stages, perfectly controlled environments, and highly sanitized scripts. And on the other side, you had Samuel Fuller. Now, Fuller wasn't just some guy sitting in a director's chair theorizing about battle. He was a genuine World War II infantryman. He brought his own visceral, real-world combat experience straight to the set. The man knew exactly what combat sounded like, what it smelled like, and most importantly, how terrified soldiers actually act when the bullets start flying. He didn't want to make a movie about flawless plastic heroes. He wanted to make a movie about survivors. Moving on to Part 2, gritty realism on a budget. So, Fuller's unique vision birthed a shockingly different kind of war movie, but it was driven almost entirely by pure necessity. This film was made for literal pennies compared to the massive war epics of the time. I mean, we're talking about a budget so unbelievably tiny, it probably wouldn't even cover the coffee and snack table on a modern Hollywood set today. But here's the thing. This strict constraint paradoxically fueled its massive success. Without the money for fleets of tanks or thousands of extras, Fuller was forced into this incredibly tight, claustrophobic camera work. He had to rely on intense character interactions and build this heavy, inescapable atmosphere of dread. The lack of cash basically stripped away all the Hollywood glamour, leaving behind a bare-bones aesthetic that felt, honestly, uncomfortably real. And this micro-budget forced a dirt-under-the-fingernails realism that allowed Fuller to basically go rogue. He tackled taboo social and racial themes that were rarely, if ever, touched in early 1950s cinema. So instead of those sanitized, poster-perfect heroes, early audiences were genuinely shocked. They sat in theaters and watched a racially integrated unit dealing with profound internal friction. Think about that. At a time when America was heavily wrestling with its own deep societal divisions, Fuller just wove those complex racial dynamics right into the fabric of a combat film. He was holding an unvarnished mirror straight up to a deeply divided nation.
Which brings us to Part 3, controversy and reception.
Let's be real, when you break the rules like that, you're naturally going to ruffle some serious feathers. The totally unvarnished reality shown on screen drew fierce, immediate pushback from military officials of the time. The authorities, they just wanted a polished recruitment tool, something to boost morale and present a very specific, preferred public image. But instead, Fuller delivered a movie showcasing exhausted, terrified soldiers dealing with immense moral ambiguity. Relying on his own first-hand combat experience, he completely refused to compromise his vision of what war actually looked like, regardless of the intense controversy it sparked. Finally, Part 4, a lasting cinematic legacy. It is absolutely fascinating how you can trace a direct, undeniable line from the DNA of this overlooked 1951 film right to the immersive, chaotic, modern war cinema we consume today. The heavy reliance on psychological tension, the grueling, everyday reality of the foot soldier, the daring willingness to tackle complex moral questions. Samuel Fuller pioneered literally all of these modern tropes on an absolute shoestring budget.
He proved once and for all that you do not need a massive, bloated studio machine to tell a profound and lasting story about human conflict.
Think about it. More than 70 years later, the steel helmet still remains one of the most absolutely crucial Korean War films ever made. It proves that raw, unfiltered truth will always, always outlast big-budget spectacle. The Hollywood gloss fades, the CGI and special effects eventually become outdated, but honest human emotion and unflinching realism, those are truly timeless. Samuel Fuller took his own harrowing memories as a survivor, combined them with a fiercely daring approach to filmmaking, and created a raw document of the human spirit under immense pressure. It stands as a massive testament to the enduring weight of historical reality. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with a final thought to chew on. If a tiny, low-budget 1951 film that actively angered the establishment could go on to change war movies forever, what other hidden historical gems are just sitting out there, waiting to be rediscovered? The media landscape we navigate every single day is literally built upon forgotten masterstrokes, exactly like this one. Keep your eyes open, keep asking the hard questions, and never ever underestimate the power of a single, well-told story to completely change the way we see the world.